first guy we got up is Chris Hopkins. He's the O-line coach at Carleton University. Had the privilege of coaching Chris when I was the O-line coach at Mount Allison. I had him in his first 2 years, I believe, at Mount A. And so Chris is going to jump in right now, and he'll start the presentation off.
Right on. Thanks a lot, Sharps. Really excited to be here. So I think I'll get this thing going because I only have really 30 minutes. So it's pretty quick. And yeah, so can you guys see that? Is it up there?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to be here today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our practice philosophy here at Carleton, and it's really an extension of what we did out east. And much like Sharp said, I think that I'm a product of basically all of the coaches that I've been around. And one of the things that I've really learned along the way is I want to practice as fast as I can, and sometimes that's not necessarily the same philosophy a lot of offensive line coaches have. But one thing I've realized along the way is that, we feel like it's developed a good attitude in our group, and it's allowed us to maximize our practice time to the best of our ability, and, while getting as many reps as we can. So I want to stress to you guys that this is not necessarily going to be a lot of technique focus. This is going to be about our practice philosophy and what we're doing, in our everyday drills, and how we kind of organize our everyday drills to maximize our practice times. And, I'm assuming that Carl will be able to kind of give you guys a little bit different philosophy as well, because he's following up with something similar. But, whether you like it or not, I want to be able to provide you this tool, and hopefully it's something that you guys can see useful. So, why do we do circuits? And this is the thing, is that, I have a little bit of a background at other positions as well. And, when the special teams coach tells me that the best thing that they can do to get as many drills in or as many techniques in as possible is for them to do circuits, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's going to work for our group. We have a lot of everyday drills and techniques that we have to get done, and we have to maximize our practice time. So every guy, every O-line coach is sitting there, really fighting with everybody for as much Indy as we can. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to fight for every piece of Indy time I can get. But no matter what I'm given, I know that the way I'm going to organize practice is going to allow me an opportunity that I'm going to get the things that I need done. So, the positives that I see is, one, it maximizes our Indy time. It's going to be in a position where everybody's working pretty much consistently all the time. I don't believe in lines. I don't believe in guys standing around. I'm not in a position where I like when guys take 30 seconds to rotate between groups, and I'm trying to keep guys in a small space and maximize as much time as we can, and while maintaining a good tempo and getting good quality reps. I think the other thing is it keeps players engaged. There's no time for guys to be distracted. And for us at Mount Allison, when I first learned this and now bringing it to Carleton, it meets our practice philosophy. And that's really important when you're talking about why would I do this? It has to meet your practice philosophy. If you're not traditionally a fast tempo team in practice, or, your practice don't move fast, then this philosophy may not necessarily work for you. But for us, our periods are generally pretty short. And this gives us the opportunity that it really meets and it falls in line with what everybody else is doing in our practice. So that's a great part. And I think the other thing is it's a great opportunity to develop attitude. Our guys love to work. And it was a struggle when I first became the O-line coach at Carleton, and I pulled, this philosophy in, is that the previous guy before me wasn't necessarily practicing that fast. So it was tough. The first practice or the first two practices, the guys were pretty gassed, but you start to learn pretty quickly, and the guys really adapt pretty quickly, and they understand that this is how they have to work. And, our attitude in practice has improved because they see the progress that they're making. And I'm a big believer in muscle memory. I think you got to do things over and over to make sure that you can perfect it. Sometimes when you do a rep and a coach stops you, talks to you, or you go to the back of the line, sometimes that's not transitioning to your next rep. When we're doing a circuit, it allows us the opportunity that that guy is immediately doing another rep. So he can immediately correct, what he did wrong before, which I think is of huge value. And, it's really on the coach to make sure that he's continuing to coach them and holding them accountable. But it's been great for us is because we've been in a position where we've added, really about like 10 to 15 more reps of those everyday skills that we need to through our practice, which, only starts to add on and build that muscle memory that we're looking for. I am not like an obstacle course guy. I don't have a whole bunch of stuff down in the corner, or all kinds of bags and boards and, towels and all that stuff. Like I use basically shields or med balls and sleds. And everything that we do in our circuits is trying to mimic game situations and be able to control the scout looks as much as possible. So I want to be able to make it as real as possible for our guys. For me, like playing the position, when I played it, like I wanted to be able to execute that block as many times in a row so I could perfect it. Me going against a towel or, stepping over a towel for me didn't matter. I just wanted to make sure I was in the right position to make the block. And, that's pretty much how I coach my guys too. So there is criticisms to it. And, I think a lot of people that, see us do it for the first time are like, you're nuts. You're absolutely crazy. I can't believe like you're going that fast. Like these guys are offensive linemen. You're going to burn them out. And, the first thing they're going to say, like they get tired. And yeah, they do. And that's up to the coach. He's got to basically make sure that he can read the group and he has to control the tempo. And being in a position where it's not necessarily, maybe you take 2 or 3 seconds or add in a coaching point real quick and then get them back in, minimize them to 2 reps rather than 3, starting to use some of those tools. But I find that the conditioning improves as you go on through practice and they really develop that attitude that they want to work and they can see some of their progress. So, our tempo stays pretty consistent once after the first, week or, really 4 or 5 practices. Too fast for coaching. It is a little fast and you're not going to be able to stop the drill and be in a position where you're coaching them through it every time. And I still have an issue with that. Like I still work at it every day, but you really got to coach on the run and, being able to hammer maybe some buzzwords and being able to, maybe reinforce something quickly as they go along. It is a great way to be successful and execute the circuits correctly. The other thing is like, especially for us, like I want to film some of these drills and then pull it into our meeting the next day. So like before we do like a install meeting or something like that, I'll pull in 3 or 4 clips of maybe something consistently that we're doing wrong. And so we could correct the group the next day and film. The other thing is too many reps, workload, and that's still on the coach. The coach has to be able to control that. You have to know your group. And, I'm in a position where we practice 3 times a week and you got 30, 40 minutes. And, we're in a position where gradually by the time you get to Friday, we have to get all that work in. So, it's up to the coach to make sure that they're managing the reps. And typically, if you're taking too many reps, the coach isn't managing it correctly. He's letting things go long. He's adding too many reps in if something was wrong, etc. So it's important. You're as much a part of this as the players. You got to manage the tempo. You have to manage your time effectively, making sure that you're constantly looking at the clock, knowing that, okay, I take 2 minutes for the first 2 steps. I got to make sure that I need to allow 2 minutes for the other side, etc. So, and then you still have to be a coach. You still have to coach technique and still have to try to keep them motivated and coaching some of that attitude through the drills. So we have 3 kinds of tempo. So walk is, the traditional like walk through, like slowest tempo. One thing with that is that we they have to maintain correct technique and posture, and they have to take the correct steps. I hate when guys just stand up or take lazy steps because it's a walkthrough. So I just want you to do it slower, and then we'll minimize the amount of reps that you get, add a little bit more talking in between. And then the two things that you'll really see throughout this presentation is machine gun tempo, where basically everybody's working at once. And so our whole unit is going at once, or the whole one group is going or both groups are going at once. And then making sure like the players police themselves in terms of making sure they transition quickly because they know the next rep is coming pretty quick. And then we do ping pong tempo, where I'll work from one group and back to another. So that typically gives them a little bit more rest than, the machine gun. But like I said, remember what the goal is here and why we're doing it. We're trying to maximize the Indy time, and we're trying to maximize the amount of reps that we get. So our positional warm up is really where this philosophy kind of comes from. And like I said, at Mount Allison, they came up with the positional warm up initially, and I used it at Team New Brunswick when I coached there, and I've really got into it at Carleton too, where Kelly Jeffrey and Gaetan Richard and Scott Brady really coached me through it. But like they wanted to eliminate the old school stretch lines or the old school some of the dynamic stuff where your O-linemen they're either doing one or two things. They're doing things that they're not used to doing or their body's not used to doing, and typically they've gotten injuries out of that, or they've gotten in a position where they're so lazy getting into practice because they just sat in a stretch line for 10 minutes. And now all of a sudden I got them for Indy. They've been on the field for 30 minutes and, they're sleeping. And, I think that's one thing that I saw right off the bat is that we did our positional warm up. It added another Indy period for us consistently. We got those base amount of skills right out of the way at the start of practice. Those base fundamentals, like stance, steps are all out of the way. And it's allowed us to kind of maximize the back end of practice and add things in, which has been great for us. And we know that every day the guys know that I'm going to be working a zone step. And whether or not you think you perfected it, you're going to go over it every day. And then that'll transition into, our doubles period. It'll transition into our pods period, and it'll transition into team. I think that it's great for setting the tempo early. And specifically is that, I learned this as a head coach. I hated being in a practice where offensive line wasn't in a period with the team until 45 or 50 minutes into practice. And that's just because you had to get a set amount of skills out of the way before they could even get into team. If we do the positional warm-up, we're 12 to 16 minutes in and we're ready to compete. We're ready to go, and that's been great because, one of the things for us is that, you want to start quick in a game, and the guys are used to starting quick, right out of the gun. And then the other thing is that they understand that right off the bat, they have that opportunity to beat up a guy in front of them and compete. And, I think that once the tone is set for the start of practice, good, bad, or the other, they're going to fight for the rest of the practice, and they're going to carry that tempo for the rest of the practice. As I said, our O-line's working everyday movement. So, we have so much time in practice that we have to get those base skills that sometimes you don't get to progress to that second level or that third level that you want to get to with your guys. So, for us, doing those everyday movements is really important, and then engaging all the players in every reps is vital. So the structure is real simple. 12 to 16 minutes. We're going to go at machine gun tempo or ping pong. Phase one will be our two-step strike. We'll work the full drive with our base run steps, and then we'll work pulls and reaches, which will be a movement in space phase. And then our last one will work doubles. So two-step strike. We're going to execute our first two steps of the strike. Could be 2 to 4 steps depending on what we do, and the strike of our fundamental run blocks. And we try to keep it to about 3 to 4 minutes. We're lining up the offensive line across the line. Everybody's going. So if you have 16 guys, you have 8 groups. So if you're the O-line coach, you got to make sure that you have good eyes and you can work 1 or 2 groups at a time, but you can still control the tempo. So I'm looking at about 50 to 60% of their of their effort, trying to gradually warm them up. I'm looking for a fast 2 to 4 steps, making them sure they're in a good pad position, good pad level, a violent strike, and they're setting themselves up to finish. So I'll pick 3 steps that I need to work on. Zone, and our zone steps, or a brace step, and down block are non-negotiables. We'll work those every day, and then we'll work a variation, whether it be T-step, or posting down, pick and pop, or a reach block, and just setting ourselves up. So getting ourselves to a point where we can go execute the drill at 100%. But, generally the guys are moving at a little bit of space. They're not executing the full drive. They're not muscling guys. So, this one's in a position where, you build up to about 75, 80% through this drill, but it's a great opportunity for the guys to tackle a lot of those steps right off the bat. Then we'll move into the full drive, and now we're still in machine gun, and we'll execute the full block through the drill. And as the first one, we talked about like getting yourself into a finished position, getting the first 2 steps, like our brace step, and getting ourselves there to the block point. Now we're really talking about finishing the block. And this is where I talk about like attitude is really important. And for me, it's really important for you to have the whistle, or whether you yell hit or something, so they have something audible that they block through. Don't let them stop on their own. And we're executing the same steps, that we would execute, in the first phase, and making sure we're building on those skills that we did in the first phase as well. So you choose about 3 steps, you work each side, 2 to 3 steps. They're responsible for rotation. And as you go, especially once you get in here, is that this happens, it's so important for you to coach the defense throughout practice and in terms of what they're doing. So for us, like, we're going to vary the shades a little bit. So the third one, we're going to work pulls and reaches. For us, right now at Carleton, we work it as machine gun tempo. We also put in our reach blocks a little bit in this, because this is another one in space and in movement that we would do. So we're going to work our flat pulls and our skip pulls right off the bat. And then if we have time, we'll work the reach blocks. Or we'll just take the period and say we're just going to work knockback reach the whole time. And, for a coach, you got to focus on one part of the time. It's real tough to watch 2 of them at the same time, focus on them. And the other thing is you're going to get guys who stop on contact on the pull, or they're going to go too far. Tell them basically to execute 2 to 4 steps through the contact. Make sure we're staying on the ground, staying up, and we're rotating fast, real fast, and making sure that we're kind of flying them through. And then phase 4, we're going to work our doubles. So, doubles are such a big part of what we do. 3 to 4 minutes, and in phase 3 and 4, you're at 100%. You're warmed up, you're ready to go, and really we're going to work gap doubles, our natural doubles, our forced doubles, and maybe the backside of a zone if we don't have time for our double circuit in practice. So this will be a non-negotiable. We'll still work our doubles, and then if we still need work, we'll work to our double circuit, which is next. But it's a similar thing. We're still coaching the same technique, is making sure we're taking the correct steps. We're in the correct position. Our doubles are tight with our eyes on the right spot. And this is a great opportunity for us to really coach communication. So I tell our guys, like, every rep that you take, talk about who you're doubling to, who you're working, and who you're doubling to. I don't care if it's a warm-up. I want to make sure that we're working it the correct way. And then from here, we work to our double circuit. So same thing, same philosophy really from our active warm-up. We want as many guys working as possible. So we get out of that individual, the positional warm-up. I know that 12 to 16, I think I said it before, like that it's about 12 to 16 minutes. And, maybe at the high school level, you take 20 minutes for it, but, move into a compete period. But every day for us, like, we have a specific amount of things we got to do. And now we've just gotten all those steps out of the way. And now we can start to kind of mimic some game situations and giving them some realistic looks. So our double circuit, if we have time, and for us, we spent a lot of extra time on doubles this off season. We'll work through and we'll cycle through the kind of various types of doubles we'll use in the game, and we literally set up an offensive line. And they're basically in 3 different pods, and this is where we'll kind of bring in our H-backs as well, depending on what we're doing. But we set up 3 different pods, and the first thing we'll do is basically our gap doubles, and we can work it with basically tackle guard on the inside gap. These are zone doubles that I have shown here, and then center working back, and then any kind of backside double that we may have. Gap doubles, and then we move into our zone doubles, which is what you see here. H and our tailback working together, center guard working together, and then guard tackle on the backside. And really they have to execute it, to the scheme. So we'll tell them exactly the play call here, specifically with the doubles, with the front side. The front side tackle will say zone right. The front side tackle and H know that they're working to the Sam. Center guard will work off the shade. They have a 1-tech or a 2-eye technique. Then they know that they're doing a natural double. And then the tackle guard will work basically the scoop double on the backside. And then from the next level, we'll switch the shades. So like if you see the one down below, now we'll get, let's get the end and an outlaw with the Sam back inside. All right, now let's work our force double to the 3 technique, working up to the mic. And now let's work a backside force double, or give us some kind of lock call back, or playing off of the will. So they have to think on the run a little bit and making sure that we're still executing that technique to the best of our ability. Same thing with the coach, guys, is make sure you focus on 1 or 2 groups. And if you want to at the start, you can ping pong it, just drop down between each groups. For us, like we're going to work as many as we can because we really weren't great at it and we had to work at it. So our pod circuit, traditionally we're going to focus on our gap run scheme here at Carleton, but it's easy to do it really at in your zone game as well. But we're going to do it in the pods because it allows us the opportunity to incorporate as many guys as we can. And we're going to focus on the gap scheme because now we can be in a position where we can start to move guys around. And in a lot of cases, we could have satisfied ourselves with, the doubles in terms of moving guys around. Our pods is a focus on the gap scheme because there's a lot more moving parts, and it allows us to work really 3 of our biggest runs in our run game. So same thing, 6 to 8 minutes. Now we're going to ping pong because we have a little bit more guys involved. They have to transition quick. We're going to work power, we're going to work our counter, and we're going to work our duo concept right off the bat. And for me, like right off the bat, we're going to put in a position where guys are going to be moving and stunting. And we play a defense every day that really moves a lot. So it's going to give us various looks. And like we played Guelph last year. This gives us an opportunity in the pod that we could show them a 50, and how we're going to block the 50. It gives us an opportunity that, we can play it with pressure or play with the stunts on the backside. So we get a lot of 2-man twists in the middle, which is another thing is why I added in the backside guard and why it's so important is that they can the center and guard can start to play and communicate and work through their responsibilities. So power, counter, duo, but this same thing, guys, we're keeping the same tempo. We're going fast, but it's given us an opportunity where essentially it's a run on scout look, but we get to execute it at full speed and we get to execute it in a compete period. And we still have the opportunity that we can coach them through it. So the next thing is our pass set circuit is this is going to be machine gun. Same thing. We're going to work basically, a full group across the board. And if we have to, we'll add other tackles on the outside. We want everybody working at the same time. And I think that for me, there's been so much time that guys have spent like just focused on, let's work set to cover. Okay, good. And they just keep doing it. And this is one where you have to coach the defense. So we're going to work through basically all of the different sets that we're going to use in a game versus different shades. And if our defense is lazy and doesn't get it done, our scout look, then we're not getting anything out of this drill. So I'm a big proponent of coaching our scout look here and making sure they're giving them a good look, because we're playing against some pretty good rushers every day. And we're going to work, our progression's really straightforward. We're going to work a tight shade. We're going to work a wider shade, and we're going to work any kind of out and in. We're going to work a double post back inside, and we'll work a jump set. And the fundamentals, like the philosophy behind this, is obviously big on big protection. But, I think that if anything, we're realizing for us, like, we're a big spot setting team. We want to set the spot for the man. And this is going to get us in a position where we can continually get a good feel based on the shade or based on the set where we have to get to. And it's the same thing, guys. We're building muscle memory throughout the drills, and it's giving them that opportunity to, continually get reps and correct mistakes immediately. And then, really, it's our blitz, stunt, and pickup circuit. And I like to do 2 groups here, and you can do this a couple different ways. You can do a slide side and a big on big side, and you can incorporate the H and the T. But I think that our group learned pretty quickly that, the traditional blitz and stunt pickup period wasn't the same. I want to keep the same philosophy, guys, for the most part, and try to keep the tempo similar to the rest of practice. I don't want it to be a period where the guys can be in a position where they can't necessarily, or they can slack off, or they can go a lot slower, because I think that as soon as you start to turn your mind off, you start to be slower to acknowledge things, slower to see things, and your feet get slower. So we're going to execute it. I'll control the tempo. If I want to minimize reps in this period, then I'll coach them through it a little bit more between reps. But I think that for the most part, the players don't necessarily know that. They think they're being coached, and sometimes it's just an opportunity for me to give them a rest. But, we'll work our scan to it. Our progression is pretty simple. We're going to work common, even, odd 5-man pressures. 5-man pressure to the slide side, 5-man pressure with, some kind of wrap back to the man side. And then we'll work our opponent's top pressures that we'll see. And then opponent, really the 6 to 7 man pressures that really scare us, and incorporating the tail and the H in there and making sure that we're getting our scan correct and our zone or half zone correct, and making sure that our technique is correct and our eyes are all in the right spot. So typically I like to do it with 2 groups, and then we'll be working separately. And then if we get time, and this one's usually tough, is that we want to be able to work pass rush counters, and this will be kind of in conjunction with our pass set circuit. And typically this is where I'll start to kind of slow them down. Like, this is where I know that they're a little bit gassed, but it's an opportunity where they can still work some muscle memory with their hands. They can still work some good eyes and hand replace drills. So I'll always have a progression for it, and it's going to start with, rip, speed, bull, and then, bull, rip, and then we'll work to a speed, with arm over, long arm, any kind of spin. And this is one, like, you're gonna get to a point where your first year guys don't have a clue what you're talking about, but like by the time they get to second or third year, or they've gotten deeper into the off season, that they've realized, okay, I know what coach expects of me, and I have to give a good look and make sure that, when I go against an all-Canadian on the other side, he's prepared. So guys, this is 30 minutes goes completely like crazy quick, and I feel like I drilled through everything really quickly. And I'm sorry, I have limited film. I have a little bit that I could share with you guys, but for the most part, I wanted to make sure that we set it up. COVID kind of didn't allow us. We've locked out of our building for a while, so COVID's kind of put us out of there, and we have limited indie film on our 360 right now. But the biggest thing that I want to stress is that this is a philosophy that I believe in. I believe in practicing fast. It's been great for, us to maximize our reps, to add more reps, and also be in a position where, we've been able to condition our athletes and show them what they're going to see every day. And there's my contact info. I'd be happy to sit down and talk about it forever with you guys and about, my philosophy for Indy and how we maximize practice time. But, yeah, I appreciate it, Sharps. Thanks for the opportunity. I assume that there may be some questions.
Yeah, Hoppy, thanks a lot. Here, you want to turn off your screen share, and then the guys.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot for doing that, Hoppy. The stuff. The question I had from a few guys was they were wondering if you could share your PowerPoint presentation. So, is it okay if they email you then at the?
Yeah, 100%. Love to talk to them. Love to meet some other people from across the country and share some ideas.
Awesome. Well, we even have a from Italy on, so maybe they'll hit you up too.
All right, let's go.